not even joking. I was just like... Hello darlings, and welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new here. In today's video we're going to be reviewing Margaret Atwood's Dearly, which I just read a few weeks ago, or like a week ago, for my poetry book club. This is my first experience actually reading Margaret Atwood, which I know some of you will be like, excuse me? But it's true, it's the first time I've ever read her. This is her, by the way, Margaret Atwood. She's 81 years old, and she's written a lot. Most notably known for writing The Handmaid's Tale, which, yes, I've never read, as I said. I've never read any of her work before now. But I'm absolutely just so grateful we picked this for book club. It was such an amazing read. It made me cry 5 times. I'm not even joking. I was just like... like literally, it was bad. So, as I always do with reviews, we're going to go through each section of the book. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about standout poems, etc., etc. So, let's get started. So, in Dearly, there are 5 sections. The sections are just listed 1 through 5 in Roman numerals. There are 121 pages of poems. I wouldn't say 121 poems though, because some of the poems go on to multiple pages. There are some really good pieces in here. I wasn't sure what to expect going in, having never read any of her poetry or her fiction. And whenever that happens, I really feel like, you know, it's just a new experience, new author to you, and you just never know what to expect. But I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm excited to read more of her work in the future. At the heart of this collection is the weight of grief and the sharp sense of morality we experience as we grow older. Margaret Atwood holds nothing back. Her heart is laid out bleeding on the table, served for dinner even, plated beautifully in her words. You get a sense from this collection that Margaret Atwood has had her fair share of experience with death. But while she highlights the grief of losing loved ones, losing your mind, watching the world die, and marching towards the finish line herself, you get the sense that none of these things have broken her, that she has defied all of these obstacles. And if anything, this book isn't about the fear of death or about the somberness of death. It's about living in spite of it. Living in spite of your pain and of your trauma, of embracing the little things in life, whether that's, you know, watching the mushrooms grow, or watching movies, or having sex, or going on a walk, whatever it is. She encourages you, you know, to pick the blackberries, to taste the bitter sweetness of life and to embrace it fully. And I would say that it's a collection that affected me personally very deeply. I related to a lot of these poems, and they touched me in a way that I was not expecting. And I think that there's a lot that we could learn from Margaret Atwood and her views on life and how brave she is. And so that leads us to discussing some of the standout poems. So in the first section, the second poem, the very second poem, made me cry. It's a standout for me. It's called Ghost Cat. And then another poem, not far from that one, called Blizzard, also made me cry. So Ghost Cat is about a cat she had who had dementia. I assume the cat has died. I'm not really sure though, so don't quote me. Blizzard is about her mother being basically, she says century, so 100 years old, and, you know, fighting her last battles and heading towards death, which again, I assume her mom's died at this point, but I'm not really sure. In the second section, there are a lot of great poems, but the one that really stood out to me was Songs for Murdered Sisters. Now what's unique about this poem is that it has a header and then it has like multiple poems in it. So it's almost like the title is like the name of a book, and each poem is like a chapter. It's kind of how it felt to me. And so it's called Songs for Murdered Sisters, but there's 8 poems within it. They go by Empty Chair, Enchantment, Anger, Dream, Birdsong, Lost, Rage, and Coda Song. And that poem is about her, from what I understood, her sister getting murdered. Editor Ashley here, ignore the blue light glasses. But I looked it up and Margaret Atwood's sister wasn't murdered. She actually wrote the poem Songs for Murdered Sisters in partnership with a man named Joshua Hopkins, whose sister was murdered by an ex-partner, and that ex-partner actually murdered 2 of his other partners as well. So this one man murdered 3 of his ex-partners. And she wrote this poem in partnership with him, and he is a baritone opera singer. And there is actually a whole little album, I'm looking at it on YouTube right now, a whole playlist of music that was, you know, created in partnership with this poem, and a little visual trailer. So I will link both of those in the cards, and even if opera is not your thing, I highly recommend just checking it out. But also about all the women who have been murdered by men. And it is a really emotional piece, and reminded me of my own sister, who was not murdered, but who did die 7 years ago. And in the third section, there are a lot of good poems, of course. There are a lot of good poems in all of these. Zombie is particularly a standout in the 4th section. I want to say Plasticine Suite. I'm not sure if that's how that's said, but that's also another poem that has parts. That one has 9 parts to it. And that poem our poems are all about kind of watching the world be polluted and dying, and it's really heartbreaking, and it made me cry, which is a theme to this entire collection. The 5th section, a standout for me. Now this is the last section. I'm gonna say Disenchanted Corpse and Dearly were big standouts for me. So those were the 7 poems that really stood out to me in this collection, for just being brutally honest, but in, you know, a beautiful way, because it's poetry. So even usually when you're reading poetry, if something's just like super blunt, it'll do it in a poetic way. But those poems all made me cry. So they left an indent on me, and they will always kind of be my favorite poems in this collection because I cried, because I'm a sensitive person. But there's so much that I could say. Like, I have so many like notes written in Post-its on almost every single poem. I could literally just go through this and read all the poems, but I'm not going to. I will read one poem, and I'm probably going to read the first one that punched me in the heart, and that's Ghost Cat. That was like the one that just was like rip, die, bleed out. It's sad. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read that. In my poetry group, if y'all watched the previous review I did for a poetry collection, there was a prompt list for that book. Well, instead we made prompts for this book ourselves, and so I did right after it, and I'm just going to continue my trend of reading a poem and then reading the poem I wrote after it to kind of give you a sense of how it inspired me, because I just think that's a fun thing to do. Ghost Cat. Cats suffer from dementia too. Did you know that? Ours did. Not the black one, smart enough to be neurotic and evade the vet. The other one, the furrier's muff, the piece of fluff. She'd writhe around on the sidewalk for chance pedestrians, whisker their trousers, though not when she started losing what might have been her mind. She'd prowl the night kitchen, taking a bite from a tomato here, a ripe peach there, a crumpet, a softening pear. Is this what I'm supposed to eat? Guess not. But what? But where? Then up the stairs she'd come, mouth-footed, owl-eyed, wailing, like a tiny, fuzzy steam train. Aroo! Aroo! So witless and erased. Oh, who? Clawing at the bedroom door, shut tight against her. Let me in, enclose me, tell me who I was. No good, no purring, no contentment. Out into the darkened cave of the living room, then in, then out, forlorn. And when I go that way, grow fur, start howling, scratch at your airways, no matter who I claim I am, or how I love you, turn the key, bar the window. That piece is, it just really makes you think of the morality of life and almost the cruelty of aging. Age is a cellular flaw, and I believe that. I think it's a flaw in the design of the cell, but obviously, I mean, if we lived forever, that'd be a whole other problem. But yeah, I just think when you read this collection, it really makes you think of just how short life is and how unpredictable it is, and how you never really know where you're headed. Not to give you an existential crisis or anything. So for my poem, I used a prompt I created after Ghost Cat, which is the poem I just read. And that prompt was basically to write a poem about someone, like from the perspective of someone who was losing their mind, or an animal that was losing their mind. And I also used another poet from the group chat named Alex, her prompt, which was to write about a time when you were late. And so this poem is called Tidsoptimist, which is a person who's habitually late because they think they have more time than they do. And I will now read Tidsoptimist, which I'm probably saying wrong to you. So, Tidsoptimist. I'm late, but for when? What's the date? The days bleed into every night. How much time has gone by? I'm late, but for where? Where's this place? The woods here are velvet black, soggy bark, molded fat. I'm late, but for what? Have I gone down the rabbit hole? Am I supposed to fall, jump, crawl? Bone white carrots, a crunch, a squirt of liquid. Is it blood? Crimson life, have I gnawed off my leg this time? I'm late, but for who? Whose hands are these around my waist? They feel warm, there's love on their face, but alas, I can't stay, I must escape. They'll make a coat of my fur, cut off my foot for luck. There is a smell of salt in the air. Who is it from? Do I care? I don't recognize the face in the stream leaking up at me. My throat is dry. Should I drink? I'm late. And so that was my take on writing from the perspective of someone or something that was both late and losing their mind. So for this poem, I went down the kind of the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland route. I wasn't really sure where it was going to go when I started writing this piece, but I really like how it's turned out, and yeah, I really do. I think it turned out really well, and so I can thank Margaret Atwood for that. So in summary, Margaret Atwood is amazing, and you should read Dearly by Margaret Atwood. I've also written a review for this on Goodreads. I've decided I would start doing that for every book that I review, so you can find a written and probably more elegant, or eloquent, I should say, version of this review on Goodreads. But for now, I give this 5 ink blot hearts. I definitely recommend. Thank you for watching this video. If you've read Dearly by Margaret Atwood, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. And if you've made it this far and you like this video, please, like and subscribe and comment and ring the bell and all that good jazz to tell me, like, hey, I liked this, make more. And if you made it this far, here are your bonus points right here. And thank you again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. She'd rather and I give this 5 star. 5 ink pot heart ink. It's just like going over my face.